Hello, class. Welcome to our first online lecture, Introduction to Religion and the Environment. So our objectives in this brief presentation is we are going to get a general overview of the unit. We're going to define what nature is, define what environmentalism is, talk about the three major environmental arguments, and then we're going to review some major questions that we are going to consider throughout the unit. All right, so in this presentation, we will learn about some of the key language and schools of thought related to the discipline of environmental ethics. That is, again, with every unit, we have to go over some of the major language that is used and the schools of thought of interpretation. And at the conclusion, we will be asked to consider certain fundamental questions relevant to the approach of theological ethics. That is, I will leave you with some questions to think about over the next 2 weeks. So we're talking about environmental ethics. So the overarching issue that concerns environmental ethicists is the following. How ought human beings to be in relationship to the natural world? That is, we are beings that exist in the natural world. So how are we to be in relationship with it? Are we to be hostile to it? Are we to exist in harmony with it? If we are to exist in harmony with it, what exactly does that mean? So again, what exactly is our relationship to this natural world in which we live? Well, in order for us to tackle this question, we first had to define what do we mean by the natural world? That is, what is nature? Well, this is actually a complicated question. Again, dealing with philosophy, nothing is straightforward. So it's a complicated question, and philosophers have grappled with it for many centuries. And we will delve into why this is the case in a moment, but let's just first start with a rudimentary definition. So nature, in terms of a philosophical definition, refers to phenomena that exist in harmony with the laws of nature. So in other words, philosophers acknowledge that there exists a natural world, that there are laws that govern it. And so nature basically refers to those things in the world that follow these laws. And these phenomena would be things like water, air, trees, rocks, and animals. Now, a big question is this: where do human beings fit in nature? That is, usually when we think of nature, we think of like trees and rocks and things like that, things that follow natural law. But are human beings part of nature? Well, in the Western philosophical and theological traditions, human beings are believed to have a complex relationship with nature. That is, on the one hand, human beings are corporal beings. That is, we have bodies, and we are comprised of natural materials like water, skin. In our body exist various elements. But on the other hand, human beings have the ability of reason, which permits us to behave contrary to natural law. So in other words, we have some kind of free will to kind of violate or change natural law, which is different from other things like rocks and trees and the wind. So when we talk about the natural world in the Western philosophical tradition, we tend to be referring to things which exist outside of humanity. So things that are external to us. And the influence of Western philosophy can be felt today. I mean, let's just take a look at the Cambridge Dictionary definition of nature. So according to the Cambridge Dictionary, nature refers to all the animals, plants, rocks, etc. in the world, and all the features, forces, and processes that happen or exist independently of people, such as the weather, the sea, mountains, the production of young animals or plants, and growth. So in other words, yes, human beings are to an extent part of nature, but there's kind of this idea that when we refer to the natural world, we're referring to things which are outside of us. So again, we return to the question. We have a natural world, we have humanity. How ought human beings to be in relationship to the natural world? Well, according to environmental ethicists, or actually more accurately, environmentalists, human beings have or should be have some kind of an ethical relationship with the natural world. That is, according to environmentalists, human beings have a moral duty to protect, conserve, and sustain the natural world. And there are generally three moral arguments used by environmentalists to support this position. And here they are. So again, why do human beings have a responsibility to protect the environment according to environmentalists? Well, we have three major positions here. We have the anthrocentric argument, the ecocentric or biocentric argument, and the theocentric argument. So according to the anthrocentric argument, human beings should protect the environment because it benefits humanity. That is, human beings should preserve nature because it provides resources necessary for survival as well as aesthetic benefits. So for example, human beings shouldn't pollute the water supply because we need water to survive. We should have things like national parks because human beings enjoy the natural environment. So in other words, we should protect the environment because it's beneficial to us, and if we don't protect it, it'll be harmful to us. So the reasons for this are anthrocentric or human-centric reasons. Another argument that is used by environmentalists is the ecocentric or biocentric argument, which makes the claim that human beings should protect the environment because it benefits nature. That is, those who hold this position make the argument that nature has personhood, that nature has an intrinsic right to exist peaceably without human exploitation or pollution. So for example, we should protect, I don't know, like the white rhino, the white rhinoceros, that is. Why? Because the white rhinoceros has a right to live, and it has some kind of personhood or some kind of animal right that is intrinsic that kind of protects it from our harming it. So again, we should protect the environment not because it benefits us, but rather because it benefits nature. And religious ethicists use what is often referred to as the theocentric argument, this idea that human beings should protect the environment because God values nature. So in other words, nature is God's creation, and God values the natural world, so human beings should not exploit or pollute it. So why should human beings protect nature? Well, because it's God's creation, God owns it, and therefore we should adhere to God's command to conserve or protect it. So those are the three major arguments that we will consider as we are tackling our issues in environmental ethics. So with this in mind, there are three major questions that I would like for us to consider in this unit. 1, are the religions we are studying green religions? That is, are they pro-environmental or are they anti-environmental? 2, how do our religions view the proper relationship with human beings and nature? That is, are human beings to be hostile to nature or to live in some kind of harmony with it? What exactly is our relationship to be? And more specifically, and we're going to get into this in our second week of study, how do our religions view the proper relationship between human beings and animals? Are animals granted any rights or moral dignity in our traditions? Or are human beings seen as ultimately superior and being able to exploit the other living beings in this world? So these are three questions that we are going to consider over the next 2 weeks.